Namaskar, Adab, Shalom, all kinds of greetings across the world. On behalf of Global Performing Arts, I welcome each one of you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and if you're snuggled in bed, for a good night ahead. Thank you so much. Global Performing Arts in the last 9-10 months, coming away from our stage productions. We have been online. We produced 3 programs on Mosiki with Radhika Chopra, Vidya Shah, Ramneek Singh, and we've had 2 programs on cinema with Deepa Mehta and Shuman Ghosh. I thank each one of you for your comments, for your encouragement, but also I make an appeal because none of these things would be possible but the harsh realities of financial obligations. So please support us as we continue with our programs. As we all throughout the world, we've been facing sadness, loss. The pandemic has changed the life, the world for so many people. But I hope, like me, most of you, all of you, have found a refuge, a healing, a therapy through the arts, and most certainly through music. As Yehudi Menuhin said so rightly, music is a therapy. It is a communication far more powerful than words, far more immediate and far more efficient. And that's how we all have found some kind of solace. And that is the theme of our program today, Saaz-e-Hayat, Music for Humanity. And to take us into this program this afternoon, I have with us Sheena Bhasin. Sheena is a vital and valued part of our organization, Global Performing Arts. After a hugely successful career in the corporate world, she now enjoys golf. She's a hiker, she's a biker, she is a golfer, and she calls herself a foodie. In the corporate world, she was promoting e-learning and learning technologies, which brings her to the arts world as well. She's a strong patron of the arts, loves music, and especially contemporary music like we have today. Thank you for being here, Sheena. Also with us is Varun Chitnis. Varun brings his knowledge and passion for music. He has studied production at Shenandoah Conservatory. He has produced recordings in Mumbai, crossed over, and in Los Angeles. And now we are very fortunate to have Varun as part of the Washington, D.C. music circuit. He's a dedicated teacher, teaches piano, and is preparing a new generation of musicians with passion, love, and dedication. Thank you, Varun.
Thank you, Mandaji.
Wherever you're connecting from, is it New York? But welcome. Also with us.
Yes, we are in New York City.
Okay.
And
stay connected with the light on you. Also with us, is a dear friend, a passion for music and much more in life is Manmeet Singh, who's a great corporate wala, but I won't go into that area of his. Manmeet is a multifaceted musician. He plays the sarangi, he plays the tabla, and also sarangi tabla. And he sings. Yes, he has joined us in so many concerts, totally extempore, and brings his powerful voice to the chorus singing. He is a luthier who's building harps, a rare rarity today, and a dear friend and a supporter of the arts, and most of all, global performing arts. Thank you so much, Manmeet, for being here. And the whole afternoon is in the hands of our technical director, Uday Kamath. Dr. Uday Kamath is a data analyst, an expert on cybersecurity and financial crime and fraud, the area that I know nothing of. But Uday is here. He's a poet. He has just posted his recent ghazal. He is a marathon runner, a gourmet cook, and yet a very, very sought after, an original, and a researched musicologist. We all look for him for words and for wisdom and knowledge in the music world. Most of all, Uday is a rare human being, a gem. Thank you so much, Uday. You've been with us for all these programs. Never a glitch, and I hope this one goes well too. So thank you all. And we are all collected here for a program with Sonam Kalra. Sonam Kalra, based in New Delhi, is a woman of the century, a multifaceted woman, a producer, a singer, graphic designer. She's a singer with a difference, a singer with a message, and her message promoting faith through poetry, prayer, and music for the one universal voice. And that is what we need today in our troubled world. She has performed in over 30 countries, including at the Sydney Opera House in Australia and at the Sufi Festival in Jodhpur. She has even performed in the Sufi Festival at the Pyramids. I wish I was there, Sonam, to listen to that one. Must have been amazing, amazing. She has played in so many Sufi festivals all over. She is a feminist, a very active political and social critic. There is so much to talk about and discover about Sonam as we go along in our program today. So we are delighted. You are with us, Sonam. Welcome. You're with us and in so many homes across the world with the message, the one message of peace, of hope, love, and harmony. We're all here with you and many, many people across the world. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Manjula ji. Thank you so much to all the other members, the friends of GPA, the members of GPA. Thank you to every single person who's tuned in. And thank you to technology for making this possible for us to be sitting across the world and being not just being a global family today for the Global Performing Arts program. So really, I think that we have much to be grateful for today, Manjula ji. And I'm personally so thrilled to be here, to be doing this with you. I still remember our first meeting in New Friends Colony and how it felt like when I'd met you. I'd already known you for so long, and we've been talking of doing this program. And of course, COVID happened, and you have been just so kind and supportive. So thank you for having me here to discuss what I mean. When people say they want to discuss my journey, I'm a little bit embarrassed because I feel like I'm really on it, and I'm just starting out in so many ways. And I want to feel like I'm just starting out at every point in my life so that there's so much more to look forward to.
Okay, so to take us right into the program, we have Manmeet Singh to do the honors.
Yeah, well, welcome, Sonam. And I think, with all the things that are happening in the world right now, it's hard to detach from there. And then there you always need a reset. For musicians, the minute the tanpura goes on, it's a reset, right? You get into a zone. But for a lot of commoners, it's either starting the day with some classical or some gurbani or bhajans, and it just flushes out all the thoughts and prepares you for the day. So I think Guru Nanak, his vision was Ek Onkar, and it it is often translated as there is just one God, the same God for everyone. And sometimes I take that translation further, that in the end, it's just God. It's all God. If you don't see God in all, you don't see God at all.
That's beautifully said, and it's so true. Manmeet, you muted yourself by mistake. I think we lost you.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Oh, yeah. So if you can just kick off the program and read the reset button for our soul with the Ek Onkar, I think that would be a great start.
I absolutely would like to do that. And before I do, I think that what you've said, and today we are all part of this global performing arts family, I think that one of the most important things you said, Manmeet, was that each of us starts our day with some form of music or a reset button. And I'm just going to bring to light what's happened to the arts community in the last 2 years and how it's been neglected by all the powers that be, or in general, it's not been seen as an essential service. And how you described it today is how I describe it. It is the most essential service for any one of us. Imagine a day without music, a day without poetry, a day without a beautiful textile, a day without literature. So thank you for actually bringing that to light and reminding each of us, and that there is God in everything, and there's certainly God in the arts. I mean, I think for most of us, for all of us, I can speak for every artist. I think music, art is ibadat. So I will start with the Ek Onkar. This is my version of, it is the Japji Sahib, but you will hear strains of La ilaha illallah in it, and you will hear strains of the Gayatri Mantra in it as well. I can hear a phone beeping. Is that someone else's, or is that coming through on anyone else's, like a battery thing, or am I just hearing it in my area?
Not from us. No, it's not.
So that's great. No, as long as it's not disturbing for the audience. So I'm going to start now, if I may. Just give me a second to set everything here. Give me one second. Ek Onkar Satnam, Ek Onkar Satnam, Ek Onkar Satnam, Karta Purak Nirbhav Nirvair Akal Murat Ajuni Sebhang Gur Prasad Jap Ad Sach Jogad Sach Hai bhi Sach Nanak hosi bhi Sach Ek Onkar Satnam, एक ओंकार सतनाम 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 महर तेरी इस बंदे पर तू ही है मेरा खुदा रहमते तेरी इनायत तेरी तू सुन ले मेरी दुआ एक ओंकार सतनाम एक ओंकार सतनाम एक ओंकार सतनाम सतनाम सतनाम
Excellent, Sonam. You've all put us in the mood.
And
And
I'll just switch to the
relax.
verb.
And in
Yeah,
another,
that was great.
wonderful, wonderful. Thank you.
That
Thank
was
you.
amazing, Sonam ji.
Thank you so much.
Sounded
Sorry, I'm
beautiful,
just trying to
Sonam ji.
read this without reverb.
So
As I told you, I've become a sound engineer now in my new avatar, thanks to technology. I've got one eye and one hand on this side, and it's great. I think that all of us have learned so much during this time.
yeah,
You've done it perfectly, and the sound was so good, Sonam.
Thank
It
you.
was simply wow. That's all I can say.
Thank you,
Very good.
Sheena. Thank you so much.
so then,
I've had a year to work hard, so I better get it right now. No excuses.
Sonam ji, want to start asking some questions and
Absolutely.
probing in. So you are such a versatile musician. You bring so many dimensions in terms of styles, genres, languages, and you have done so many projects and heard about your unique new project on Sufi gospel. So you want to shed some light and give our viewers
Absolutely.
information on that?
Absolutely, I would love to. The Sufi Gospel Project is not just, I don't know if it's a project anymore. It's really my whole life. It's everything I believe in. I feel like it was granted to me. It was gifted to me in many ways. I may sound like a kook for saying that, but I really do believe that. I belong to the Sikh religion. And so I've really grown up, I mean, not in a very traditional Sikh family. My family was a very liberal family. I'm one of 3 girls. I was the youngest. But we were a family that really believed in syncretism. We believed in equality of all faiths. And that's the way I grew up. I lived through the 1984 riots. I remember seeing them, being really, really moved by them and really horrified that the label of religion could cause, people to just kill someone without reason, and the kind of mass devastation that happened in those 4 days, and subsequently it was just heartbreaking for a young child to see. I think that was perhaps the first impact impact thing that really impacted me. And I thought that, what is this world that we live in with labels? And I started to question the very meaning of labels. As I went on, I studied Hindustani classical music. My guru, Shubhaji, at that time suggested you must also study some Western music. It's always good to understand how to use your voice. So I started studying opera. I learned a little bit of opera. I was a mezzo soprano. I loved it. It was great fun, but it didn't feel like who I was. I think being a Sikhni, very much you feel like a child of the, you know, of the earth. I don't know. Maybe that's just who I've always felt like I was. So I wanted to have this buland awaz, the same awaz that my principal in school used to say, you stand with the boys and you sing, you know, because you have such a deep voice, you can't stand with the girls. And I loved it. I mean, you know, being a good Sikhni, saying, yeah, of course. And I was the youngest of three girls. As I told you, my father always said to us, he said, you're not equal to men for a second. You're much better. And so I think I've just grown up believing that women have superpowers. And I have no doubt in my mind that women do have those superpowers. With all due respect to the men here, I know you're very supportive to your women as well. So I'm just going to let this one ride. But, you know, the Sufi Gospel Project happened, I think, if I think back properly, it started to happen. You know, my mother got very sick. She was detected with 4th stage lung cancer, which was a huge shock for us because we're a Sikh family, non-smoking. It wasn't like she'd done anything to sort of, you know, be detected or to be detected at such a late stage. And I think that when that whole year I couldn't sing, I lost my voice because I was so heartbroken. I just couldn't sing and I wanted to focus on her getting better. And when I was thought I was ready to get my voice back, I was still not ready to sing. And that's when theater happened in my life because I felt like I needed a creative vent. And I was very lucky to work with some, and I'm giving you the whole background because it was an interesting build towards, I was very lucky to work with some incredible directors. But one of the most, I mean, I worked with Sonjoy Roy, Sita Rena, and then Amal Alana. And I think that's what really changed it for me. When I worked with Amal, it was a really immersive process. It was a process of not having a script, of finding your own way, of going so deep into like the story of that person, understanding the discipline of obsession. You know, it's one thing to be obsessed and to say, I love something, but how do you convert that into a discipline? So understanding that there were certain elements which I realized later that I took from theater. You know, when I was growing up, like most musicians, you're very hard on yourself. You think you're terrible. You're your own worst critics. You never think you're good enough to perform. It's all the same stuff. We're the hardest on ourselves and we are our greatest obstacles. And I think with theater, with Amal, when Amal would make us do these very ugly forms on stage, and I mean, you know, as a girl, you're suddenly thinking, gosh, I have to look that ugly. And you realized, you know, and also there was a part of you that thought, that's really easy to do. I can do it. I can make a funny face. But when you realized what Amal said, that if there's an element, you have to find the element of truth in imperfection. If you can find honesty, in the moment, then there will always be beauty. And that somehow really helped translate to my music. We're saying, you know what, doesn't matter. I am a Sikh, which means I am a student for the rest of my life, and I embrace that. I also embrace the fact that I will make mistakes and I'm okay to make them publicly. It doesn't matter because it's my journey, and I will embrace my imperfections to be part of who I am, what I am feeling that day, what I am going through, because if it is my voice, it must reflect everything that I am. And it can't be this glossy, beautiful thing. So that's one of the things I took with theater. And then to help deal with my mother's illness, I found that I started singing Amazing Grace a lot. And in fact, when you heard Meher Teri Is Bande Par, it's to the tune of Amazing Grace. I translated Amazing Grace into the Sufi Katha. And I found that just used to give me a lot of solace. And I went to Singapore on a small vacation. And first day that I was there, I passed a music school. I just decided I was going to go and ask if they had a gospel teacher because I couldn't learn gospel here. I did find one. She turned out to be 10 years younger than me. She turned out to be a red-headed Australian. I mean, you know, every stereotype that you have of a gospel teacher being an African-American person. And in fact, when I walked in and I saw the person behind the reception was a big black African-American guy. And I thought he must be the teacher. Again, how we stereotype, right? Yeah. I immediately thought this must be the teacher. And he said, yes, you come back in 15 minutes, there's a slot. I walk into the door expecting to meet him. And there's this freckled little redhead girl. And she turned out to be one of my great friends. And you know, I kept going back for many, many months after that, a year or so, to learn from her whenever I could. And through her, I didn't, because I think that I was so heartbroken about my mother being sick. Indian music, classical music meant so much that I didn't want to fail at it. So I approached music from another side where I wasn't afraid of failure. And gospel was giving me solace. And then when I started to sing more and more gospel music, I was so moved by the divinity in the music, by the spirituality of the music, that before I knew it, I'd become a gospel singer. And it was, everyone would, people who'd interview you, they'd say, but you belong to the Sikh religion. Why don't you sing, shabads? Why do you sing Christian bhajans, as they used to call them? And I used to find that term very funny as well. And that made me think even more that, why does it matter to people how I call out to God? It shouldn't matter, because God is not religion. And that's a mistake we make. And religion is not God. I mean, God has no religion. So why do we make this mistake? And why can one person do this? If you are a Indian classical singer, you can never try anything else. If, people immediately are so afraid to move out of these boxes that we put them in. And so I decided I was going to break all the boxes. And then this magical thing happened to me while I think one of the things that I was doing, and which I often tell people to do, not because I think that it's some great piece of wisdom, but I tell them this is what I've done. I did what my mother had told me many years ago, that listen to the core of your heart. And I started listening to my heart. I started listening outside for signs, for things I heard. So when I got a call from the dargah, someone at the dargah of Sufi Inayat Khan, and they said, it's the Urz of Sufi Inayat Khan, will you come and sing gospel music? And I was thrilled. I said, wow, I'll get to sing gospel music in a dargah, and I'm a Sikh girl. And that is when I said, I must do something befitting of this opportunity that the universe has granted me. And so there, when I first did it, it was I just imagined the sound. I imagined the sound of a sarangi, a tabla, a flute, and I imagined it with my gospel music. I said, how beautiful will it be? Because it'll kind of blend both things. When I performed it there, as I performed it, as I created the pieces, things started to happen inside me unknowingly. And when I was leaving Nizamuddin that day, I remember, and I was waiting for my husband to pick me up in the car, the words, the Sufi Gospel Project, popped into my head. And I thought, that's what I'm going to do. And then that whole year was the last year that my mother was alive, so I couldn't really do much. But she used to keep saying, Sonam, when you finish your pieces, I want you to put them for me on my iPad so I can listen to them. And when she passed away, my mother used to run a music heritage society, which we still run, called Sharaj, which is the first note of Indian music, full form of Sa.
Yeah.
And they said, will you do a tribute concert for her? And I decided to do some of those pieces, and then I developed some more. When I finished that concert, my musician said, ye aap duniya ke saath share kare. And I said, log bolenge pagal hai. कि क्या इसने अपना बना दिया. But then the more I thought about it, the more I said, if Sufism is an acceptance of all humanity, who is to say, why can't I include every language in it? If as an Indian I speak so many different languages, if a citizen of this world I'm exposed to so many different beliefs and faiths, why can't I put it all together? And then the more I researched it, I found across region, across religion, across time, across borders, people were saying the same thing, whether it was Rabia al-Basri, Sufi mystic, saying, in my soul there is a temple, a church, a shrine, a mosque that dissolve in God. Prayer should bring us to an altar where no walls or names exist. In my soul, there is a temple, a shrine, a church, a mosque that dissolve in God, whether it was her saying it, or whether it was Kabir saying, मोको कहाँ ढूंढे रे बंदे, मैं तो तेरे पास में, ना मैं जप में, ना मैं तप में, ना मैं व्रत उपवास में. He goes on to say, मैं तो हूँ हर श्वासन की श्वास में, मैं तो हूँ विश्वास में. Or whether it was Bulle Shah, whether it was whether it was Guru Nanak who said, as fragrance abides in the flower, so must your Lord abide within you. There were so many people who were saying that these lines should be blurred, and there are no lines. These are man-made lines. These are man-made labels that we make to make ourselves feel comfortable. And exactly that is what happens. When we make these labels to make ourselves comfortable, we cause them to all form little groups, and then they topple, one of the groups topples, and they have this, this clashes happen. So I just decided that through my music, I would find a way that would blend one faith seamlessly into the other without you even knowing when that happened, that a hallelujah could become an Allahu, and you'd be like, oh my God, how did that even happen? And then you realize actually they mean the same thing. Or take an instrument that everyone assumes can only be played in a certain way. Get a sarangi to be played like a cello, get a bansuri to be played, so through these subtle nuances, through using literature, through using poetry, in a call and response almost, or a missing piece of the puzzle, to find all these answers. And it was mostly a searching for me. Like, I didn't go about this saying I'm a great academic and I can do this. It was a searching. I did it guided by intuition, guided by what I was listening to, and led eventually, by intellect or research. And every time I found something, I really feel when I say it was given to me. And I felt so thrilled every time I found an answer to what I was looking for, whether it was Nahi Harwa, which is, Kabir's poetry, where he says, take me across to the other side. And in my mind, it was always Kabir uh, saying that I want to go across to the other side. So it was a boat and you were going across. And then I found this beautiful gospel hymn which said, I go down in the river to pray. And then I studied about how water meant so much. It means it has the same validity in every religion, whether it's baptism or amrit or holy water. And the similarities are phenomenal. And the great thing was, the more I looked for differences, the more I found them through them similarities, and that just warmed my heart. And the Sufi Gospel Project got more and more strength. And of course, the first time I performed it at the India Habitat Center, I went to the India Habitat Center and I said, will you give me your tiny auditorium to perform it, which is just like 140 seater. They said, nahi, aapko bada wala denge. And I got so scared because I was like, oh my God, that many more people to say, oh my God, what is she doing? But people were so kind, and people have been so kind. And I think that is the other thing that we as artists don't realize. I think we all have to stop only people pleasing, and you have to have your own unique story to tell, your own unique voice, no matter who you are as a person, as an artist. And as Amal, my director, said, who I learned so much from, even if it'll be flawed, even if it won't appeal to everyone, it'll still be yours. And in that being yours, being unique, in those flaws will be beauty. And I think that's what I started to do, embrace the flaws and find beauty through that.
क्या बात है, बहुत खूब.
So अब आप सुनाइए हमें सोनम. Everybody's waiting to listen to you. What a fabulous, amazing journey, Sonam. And of course, it's your spirit, it's your belief that comes through. And just to share with everybody, Sonam has
आप मुझे
just
रुला दोगे ऐसे इतने प्यार के साथ, मंजुला जी.
she has just recovered from COVID, and here she is with her strong, absolutely buland voice, looking gorgeous, but most of all, her faith that has brought. And she was ready to sing a few days after she was even detected, but here we are. Thank you so much. And your message, if this message could be spread all over the world, there should be no war.
Absolutely, I agree with you, Mandula ji. And I think the fact that you have platforms like this that allow us to share these messages is also important. Dialogue is so important. Doing it as a community is important. The piece that I will present to you, we just spoke of Kabir and we spoke of Moko Kahan Dhunde Re Bande. So one of the hymns that I used to sing a lot and I loved, and I think we've all grown up listening to, also at the Beating the Retreat, beautiful bagpipe version of it, of Abide With Me, which is a beautiful old hymn to God. It is a call to God saying, be with me in my hour of darkness, be with me in my time of need. And it really resonates with me because it's such a beautiful call. And then one day when I was reading the poetry of Kabir, I found in the words of Kabir Das these words. I felt like, why do I call to God when he's already in me, with me? And so this is my version of Abide With Me with a little help, as I say, from Kabir. I just want to mention my musicians who are not here today, unfortunately, with me, because I think that none of the music can be created without them. You will hear Hassan Ali's beautiful sarangi. You will hear Rajesh Prasanna on flute. You will hear Aman Ali on tabla. You will hear Alex Fernandez on keys, Tarit Pal on the percussions. These are as Manjula ji says, I'm a strong woman, but these literally are my brothers in arms. They're wonderful. They're great musicians. They're my family. And we all come together to create any piece that we put together. So this is also, unki daad zarur dijiyega.
बिल्कुल.
abide with me. Fast falls the eventide, the darkness deepens. Lord, with me abide. When other helpers fail and comforts flee, help of the helpless, oh, abide with me. I need thy presence every passing hour. What but thy grace can foil the tempter's power? Who like thyself, my guide and stay can be? Through cloud, through sunshine, abide with me. I fear no foe, with thee at hand to bless. Ills have no weight and tears no bitterness. Where is death's sting? Where grave thy victory? I triumph still if thou abide with me.
मोको कहाँ ढूंढे रे बंदे, मैं तो तेरे पास में।
मोको कहाँ ढूंढे रे बंदे,
मैं तो तेरे पास में।
ना तीरथ में ना मूरत में, ना तीरथ में ना मूरत में, ना एकांत निवास में। मोको कहाँ ढूंढे रे बंदे,
मैं तो तेरे पास में। मोको कहाँ ढूंढे रे
ना मंदिर में,
बंदे,
ना मस्जिद में,
मैं तो तेरे
ना काशी कैलाश में, ना मैं जप में, ना मैं तप में, ना मैं व्रत उपवास में, ना मैं क्रिया कर्म में रहता, ना ही योग संन्यास में, ना ही प्राण में, ना ही पिंड में, ना ब्रह्मांड आकाश में, ना मैं भृकुटी भंवर गुफा में, सब श्वासन की श्वास में। खींचे हुए तुरंत मिल जा इस पल की तलाश में। कहे कबीर सुनो भाई साधो मैं तो हूँ विश्वास में
मोको कहाँ ढूंढे रे बंदे मैं तो तेरे पास में मोको कहाँ ढूंढे रे बंदे मैं तो तेरे पास में ना तीरथ में ना मूरत में ना तीरथ में ना मूरत में ना एकांत निवास में मोको कहाँ ढूंढे रे बंदे मैं तो तेरे पास में मोको कहाँ ढूंढे रे बंदे मैं तो तेरे पास में
बहुत खूब, वाह।
Very nicely done.
Thank you.
Transported.
You know,
Manmeet?
yeah, I was going to say there's some reflections of what you've experienced in the first piece and this. Yeah, I was raised in Dubai. So three of you were three sisters, we were three brothers. And we had memorized all the namaz, you know. Allahu
my
Akbar,
God.
Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, Hayya ala Falah. So whatever we could hear on the TV, all three of us could do the namaz because everybody had to listen to the namaz. And so when we were practicing music, there would be, you know, TV would be on, the namaz would come in, then we'd try to play the harmonium. And then when I came over here, I went right to Kansas, which is, you know, sort of a remote, you know, Christian dominant, you know, farmlands, etc. And then there was no Gurdwara close by, so I happened to go to the chapel at the university, and then, you know, you listen to some gospel there, and then as a musician, you think, what rag is this? And you try to decipher all of that, right? So for you to be able to take those experiences and say we can have jazz fusion in the classical world if Nusrat Fateh Ali can try things outside, and then you've taken this whole experience and give it, you know, birth a genre in a way, because you're saying, hey, how about this, right? I mean, really, it's a musical discourse. How about this? How about that? And I'll share this. Like a lot of American Sikh converts, they started doing Gurbani Kirtan early on, and they just couldn't find the right footing for a very long time till a couple of really good talented artists came in, and then they really created this, you know, Snatam Core, and they won the Grammys, etc.,
Right.
etc.
Yeah.
So I think you have that. You already, you're way ahead, because your music is taking in a new direction, but it's still not. I wouldn't call it. Where it's experimental, where it creates this sort of what if. It's not too far out experimental. It's still so appeasing that you can enjoy it instantaneously. Like it's conditioned, it's pakawa. Abhi, you know what I
Thank
mean?
you.
And then you're taking it in that new direction, which is so refreshing. And I think there's a tremendous need for people, at least in the US. You know, it's therapeutic, it's thought provoking, because also in the music you're crossing boundaries and doing all that. So I just think it's phenomenal.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Manmeet. That's really, really
Any
generous.
artist, any artist in any art form, and I think much more music, because it's traditions. So every artist in every generation will keep, or is trying to keep, tradition, but also you have to give it your own garb, your own stamp, and relevance to a next generation. How do you engage? How do you pass it on to another generation? It is, so you have to give it a newness, you have to give it a dimension. And Manmeet, of course, with all of what you shared with us, that is your humanity. That makes it, and also that you bring to your music. Folks, we've got so much to talk about, so we've got to move a little faster.
So, Manjula, I'm going to tag on to the question that you just, I mean, the comment that you just made. So, I've really appreciated your music, Sonam, and I think what intrigued me the most is the way you blend it, and it is done so seamlessly that you bring the Indian traditional music and poetry, and then you kind of blend it with Western instruments and verse. And the renditions are just like mind blowing. Like you've already sang a couple of them, and they've been beautifully done. So my question is, like, I have two young boys in the house, and they both I wouldn't say budding musicians, but they have a good ear to music. I guess something they've taken from their mom. But how do you actually reach out to like mixed audiences? I feel that what you're doing is actually now more appeasing. It's more relevant in today's world. You're bringing the traditional Indian music in, making it more relevant in today's world. And how are you reaching the younger audiences? Because this is the kind of music that I think they would really enjoy. And I know you're becoming very popular globally, so.
I actually didn't realize that many young people are listening to me, and it's lovely to hear that. But I think every time I find anyone is listening, or that it resonates with anyone, I like the fact that I'm still really pleasantly surprised, and I'm happily surprised. And so that's something I want to keep holding on to. But I think one of the things that I try to do when I create something is, like I said, I won't create a piece just to appease someone because I think ye chalega, ye bahut acha hai, or this ye hit hoga. None of that stuff. It has to be certainly a resonance of what I say. It has to be my truth. So I think one of the things is that if you tell the truth, it will touch people in whichever way. And you'll be surprised. I mean, you know this, you're the mother of, as you said, two young boys. I think that the millennials, or maybe they're even younger than millennials now, I don't know what the next generation is going to be called. They're really woke, because again, I'm trying to use terms they use. I don't even know really, but you know what I mean?
The Gen Z or whatever. Gen X.
Yeah, but they are. I think that we need to start to give a little credit to people, and to present things before them that are different, to present things to them that they can understand. But I also try and put myself in their shoes, saying, what would I like to hear? So just to put, I was doing an interview just before this with Professor Rajmohan Gandhi, a friend of Manjula ji's from Stanford, and when the questions came to me that my friend had shared, I just said to her, I said, these are great questions, but let's also make them more colloquial, more just like, let's deconstruct things so that people can understand them. So I also deconstruct when I speak to younger audiences, or all audiences, because I try and say that this is how I understood the poetry. So when I share for you a poem that I'm going to sing, or a piece that I'm going to perform, I do contextualize it. And I think that makes a big difference when you understand, because we're taught in schools, when we were taught, I was taught Kabir Das. I was taught the works of so many beautiful poets that were made so boring. With all due respect to some of my teachers, they were made so boring that I didn't want to know them. It's only when I wanted to find out. So I think that if I can contextualize something for you, as you said, and make it relevant to the present day, if I can sing Bol Ke Lab Azad, for example, and then connect it to what's happening in the world today, or even talk of, Kabir and the fact that, he says, why do you look for me outside? I am in every breath of every man. My shoulder is touching yours. When I can tell people that, you know what, that's what namaste means. To find, as Manmeet said, to see God everywhere. Yep. We don't even realize these simple things, right? We kind of joke about the fact that it's become a really cool yoga term, or the fact that it's really great for COVID. The fact is, it actually means something beautiful. And if we can start to contextualize small things for our audiences and make them relatable, I think that's one thing we can do. And the other thing is to actually trust them to have good judgment, to trust them, to do your best, to present things in the best possible way, and then to leave it to them, to trust them. And you'll be surprised. I mean, I presented a show that I do on partition to the Ashoka University students who were 18 years old. And I remember questioning myself when the dean was saying, I want you to present this show. And I kept saying, no, let me present Sufi gospel to them, because, that's also a great message for young kids to take forward. And she said, no, I want you to present the show on partition. And I was afraid, because all the pieces were in Punjabi or in Hindi or in Urdu. Well, Punjabi and Urdu, not even Hindi. Yes, there were translations in English, but I cannot tell you. I had to speak to 500 students at the end of it, one by one, because every single one of them had something to say that they wanted to share. So I underestimated them. So I think that these are all things, checks we have to do: contextualize, trust, and don't underestimate. Let them express.
Varun, where are you? He's been waiting.
Yeah.
So now
So-
Varun's here.
I love that
Uh,
Varun is in a car. I have to say that's the coolest interview I've ever
So
done. Okay.
actually, I'm taking your advice, right? कि आपको GPS बोल रहा है right जाओ तो आप left जाओ. So I felt like coming to New York City to meet Ayushi,
I
and
love it.
she's having her
Hi.
first original gig next weekend, and it's
Oh,
important to support music.
congratulations. That is fantastic. Congratulations to you, Ayushi.
Yeah, she's an amazing
I'm sure it'll be
guitarist.
fantastic.
So we just heard there was this sarangi, and like, okay, we were just, okay, that was the secondary seventh, right? Yeah, and we both agreed. And like, maybe 4 days ago I was not on board with this as much as I am now.
Excuse me.
Okay,
Excuse me, Varun.
yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, go on.
Yeah, so like we came on board, like, okay, it does sound, convincing the fifth, sixth time you hear it. So what's your experience with that? Like, maybe some seasoned listeners are, not used to the sound first, and then they kind of
But
warm up to it.
Varun, it's not for them. It's not for anyone else. First of all, it's for me. And I'm not saying this from a selfish point of view. It's the language, the vocabulary I choose to speak in, right? So if I wanted to speak in Punjabi, then that's my prerogative. So firstly, it's my prerogative to choose the language that I want to express myself in, like any artist would, right? Secondly, it's good that they haven't heard it before, right? Because if they've heard it before, then it's been done before. Plus, I do, and in fact, one of the things I said to Manjula ji, I wanted everyone to hear the pieces and the musicians, because even the way we created the music, right? So in some cases, you'll hear in some of the other songs, in fact, when I sing Bol, you'll hear the sarangi being played almost like the cello. Also to show you that these are so many preconceived notions we have, right? And even here where he played the sarangi, it was played in a fairly Western style. So there will, of course, be the traditionalists who also, I mean, I've been on Twitter where a traditionalist said, how can you take Baba Bulle Shah's poetry and do this? When I sing Alfat, aise kaise kar diya? How have you added like an Irish vibe to it? And I wrote back to him saying, I totally understand. And I'm sure that, from a traditional point of view, I totally respect your point of view, but I have to tell my truth. And that's really what it is about me. I have to tell my truth, and I have to do it in a way that works for me. And the day I start doing it because it works for someone else, it's no longer going to be my truth. It's going to be influenced by outside. So that's really all I have to say. And like I say, I trust a lot of it. So much of it, I'm not as, I don't read Western music. So everything is based on ear. Everything is based on ear and how I hear it in my head, or a piece of music that I hear, which then I'll make someone hear saying, this is the space I'm looking at, or whatever. And then we sit and we construct these pieces of music. It's done in an interesting, you and I had this conversation, Varun, and I was telling you how, a lot of times when people play with Indian musicians, khulla bajate hain wo. Here we measure everything. So even in Abide With Me, if I know it's going to be 8 bars, it'll be 8 bars. We'll create that 8 bars of music, because every note for me, I feel, has to convey that emotion. So everything is kind of is really labored to the point of sometimes driving my musicians crazy, but they're kind and they're willing and they love music. And I think we all realize one thing very, very important. And I think everyone sitting in this little grid today, I can say that the music is not here because of us. We are all here because of the music and the gift of the art that we have. And when we can remember that, it can never be too much that we do. No amount of work that we do, no amount of riyaz, no amount of effort that we put in, listening to a track you may have recorded, driving a producer crazy because you are for the 800th time saying, fix that note, or can I just re-record that? I'm that kind of person, I'll go over and over and over it again to the point of obsession, but it makes me happy. And maybe other people are able to do it differently. But like I said, at the end of the day, you have to do what works for you. And I think that's the only way you can be an honest artist. Even when I created a piece, and I'm going to sing it right at the end, I remember when I created I won't share the name because I know it's Manjula ji's one of her favorites, so I'm going to let her tell you later. But when I created it, a young person who works with me said, ma'am, it's really slow, and for her it was slow. I get it. But I said, it's the way I want to say it. what can I do? Shall I just make it fast because it's going to make other people happy? No. And you know what? I've found, at least Varun, that every time I've done it with the belief that it's what I want to say, how I want to say it, people hear it and it's resonated with people. I don't need it to be like loved. And in any case, if everybody loves everything you do, then you know you're doing a terrible job because you're doing like the lowest common denominator thing. But I'm okay. I'm okay for you to just hear it and for it to inspire a thought in you. That's all I want from you.
So
Yeah,
now
it works. That's what we're saying. It works.
Yeah, no,
Good
I'm
job.
just, that's what I'm saying.
Good.
And I like that you said by the fifth, sixth time you guys thought about it. And so that's exactly what I wanted. So, you know, my work here is done by. I'm kidding.
So Sonam, we're getting so many comments. So the composer, the singer, Sonam, that we just heard, you've also, and we can experience that, also a great talker. You've done a number of programs for TED Talks. And there is this very strong strain of feminism, not only in your talk, in your music. So there's the female, empowerment, the gender equality, even animal rights. I just discovered Sonam is for animal rights as well. And hoping for this hoping for this kind of social change. You've been given so many awards by Femina too, and you went on by saying it's not just my face or my this, but look at the spirit, look at the intellect. Women have to have it all. You agree, right? So where and how are you conscious of it, or does it come in your music? And we would love to hear Bol. To me, that comes across as a voice, whether it's male, female, the voice, but more.
Yeah, so I think I'm not conscious specifically of being a feminist, but I'm very conscious of being a humanist. I want to make sure, for me, I think I also started sharing my music very late in life because I realized very late in life also that I think I always wanted to sing because I wanted to have something to say. And once I knew what I had to say, then I was ready to say it. So for me, it was always important to use my voice. I believe each of us, artist or not, I believe each of us has to use our voice to make a change. As responsible citizens, keeping quiet, I don't think that should be an option. I don't think it is a good option. I think that we are responsible for, if you're here in this world, you have a responsibility to this world, and you must use your voice to make a difference. I was very moved. You're asking me to sing Faiz Saab Singh. I'll just tell you, when there's such lovely stuff that happened there. I composed a version of Faiz Saab's poetry because I was so moved by it. And I remember that when I wanted to compose it, I wrote to his daughter in Lahore saying that, may I have the permission? What is the copyright and all of that? And I was expecting to just get a lovely, sweet email, just a kind mail. She wrote back the loveliest mail, asked me to come and sing in Lahore at the first Faiz Peace Festival. And to me, that is how the universe works. I was so moved. And Manjula ji, that particular time we crossed the border by foot. And I remember standing there at that Vaga by foot.
What a story.
I had been once before when they had there was a cricket match, and we had flown then, and of course it was a great atmosphere. There was a lot of love that the Pakistanis, the Lahoris gave us. But this particular time I crossed by foot, and it was this moment of reckoning when I stood there with one foot on either side of the border of this, and just standing there thinking, आपने बस एक लकीर खींच दी और आपने एक परिवार को, एक इंसान को, एक दिल को काट दिया.
Wow.
Punjab was together because of its Punjabiyat. In fact, Professor Gandhi was saying, he said, no matter what religion you belonged to, everybody spoke Punjabi in Punjab. So everyone referred to God as Rab. And that was the thing about Punjab. And that's why it was such a large, cohesive land. Ali Sardar Jafri says, no, he says, ye desh dilbaron ka, bekararon ka, jaan nisaron ka. He describes this land as a land of love, that just, of greenery, of just rivers, of, everything was fertile. There was love. People wore their hearts on their sleeve. He describes this place and he says, isi sarhad pe kal dooba tha suraj hoke do tukde. The way he describes that heartbreak, of partition. And so anyway, when we went across, it was just incredible. And I remember when we went across, my musicians were just they were really sweet, and they're a bit worried about me in general. So they say, ज़्यादा मत बोलिएगा आप, मतलब आप ये जो equality की बातें करती है, ज़्यादा मत बोलिए, पता नहीं how they'll respond. And I thought, yeah, okay, so now maybe you need to curb this. You mustn't be all gung-ho about equality, and all religions are equal and all of that. And then I got onto that stage and I looked at that audience and I thought, no, I'm sorry, this is not who I am. This is not my truth. If I come here and I do a version of myself, a diluted version of myself, then I will come away feeling like I didn't do justice to the music or to my beliefs or what it means for me. And you cannot imagine exactly, Sheena, what I said about trusting the audience. I said everything that I always say. And the loud cheers, the resonances of agreement, of people feeling exactly the same, when you realize that, again, these are worries we create. These are things we create. And it was the most lovely concert. I got to sing Faiz Sahab's Bol Ke Lab Azad Hain Tere. And Manjula ji, I went for an exhibition that they had of his life. And that was another reminder for me when I was standing there looking at how he'd led his life, and a huge part of it in jail.
Yes.
And I remember turning around and thinking, I said, I want my life to amount to something. When I say amount to something, and I don't mean in terms of fame, I want to have made a slight difference or helped someone, helped maybe garner a conversation of peace, or facilitate a conversation of peace, or create some healing, or create some positivity. So for me, that's really, really, it's important. So which is why when you say you lend your voice, I lend my voice to animals, because I love animals. I have 5 dogs myself.
Ooh.
Just because this is something that should be known. Their names are Garbar, Chutney, Ladka, Ladki, and Chokra. They're quite unique, their names. And as you see, Garbar is Garbar Singh, Chutney is Chutney Mary. There's multi-faith stuff happening there as well. But other than that, I speak out for women's rights. I speak out for, sexual abuse. I speak out for children's rights. I speak out. I lost my mother to cancer, so I support cancer charities. And I don't do this. I mean, I don't think about it, but I just think that if my voice can help in any way, like I said, bring some peace, some happiness, help somebody have a better life, then I will. And as far as feminism goes, yeah, I know what you're referring to. I was getting an award, and there was a young boy who was being particularly complimentary to the women for their beauty rather than their achievements. And so I just called him out on it, and I said, I think it's time that you realize that women don't really care about being called beautiful. They want to be lauded for their abilities. And you wouldn't, just be lauding a man for looking really handsome that day, or having, nice dimples or something, or wearing a really nice tight pair of trousers or something. So why do it to a woman? Just if you're telling someone she's a great lawyer, she's a great lawyer. It's not because she's wearing a beautiful sari. So yeah, so I will call out people, and I'll get into trouble, and that's okay. अब कुछ तो कहना है. So बोल के लब, कहते हैं ना, बोल के लब आजाद है तेरे, बोल ज़बां अब तक तेरी है, तेरा सुतवा ये जिस्म है तेरा, बोल के जान अब तक तेरी है. So speak out, because your lips, they are still free. Your voice, it is your own. Your body is your own, and this life is your own. And I think, in this, you'll notice that I've added a refrain that says, it says, Bolo ek awaaz hai hum. And I added that refrain because I feel that the power of our individual voice is strong, but the power of our collective voice is unstoppable, and it will have to be heard. And we've seen across the world, whether it was, the number of times change has happened when the collective of humanity has come together. So I'm saying we are one voice. And in many ways, it also means that despite religion, we are all the same. So बोल के लब आजाद है तेरे.
Please सुनाइए. Can't wait.
बोल के लब आजाद है तेरे बोल ज़बां, अब तक तेरी है तेरा सतवा, जिस्म है तेरा बोल के जा, अब तक तेरी है बोल के लब, आजाद है तेरे बोल ज़बां, अब तक तेरी है तेरा सतवा, जिस्म है तेरा बोल के जा, अब तक तेरी है देख के आहंगर की दुकान में तुंद है शोले सुर्ख है आहन, खुलने लगे कुफलों के दहाने, फैला हर एक जंजीर का दामन, बोल के लब आजाद है तेरे बोल ज़बां, तक तेरी है एक आवाज़ है हम, बोलो एक आवाज़ है हम, बोलो एक आवाज़ है हम, बोलो एक आवाज़ है हम, एक आवाज़ है हम, बोलो एक आवाज़ है हम।
How beautiful.
बोलिए थोड़ा वक्त बहुत है, जिस्मो ज़बां की मौत से पहले, बोल के सच जिंदा है अब तक, बोल जो कुछ कहना है कह ले, बोल ये थोड़ा वक्त बहुत है, जिस्मो ज़बां की मौत से पहले, बोल के सच जिंदा है अब तक, बोल जो कुछ कहना है कह ले, बोल के लब हजार हैं तेरे बोल जवाब तक तेरी है एक आवाज है हम बोलो एक आवाज है हम बोलो एक आवाज है हम बोलो एक आवाज है हम एक आवाज है हम बोलो एक आवाज है हम
Excellent, excellent. So inspiring, Sonal.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And the instrumentation, Varun, did you have anything to say?
This was beautiful. So, perfectly sounds like a ballad. It is a ballad. I hope people sing together in your shows, right?
I think they do like this one. And this is the one, Varun, I was saying that, if you hear what sounds like, there is actually a cello as well, but the sarangi is also being played as a cello. So, it's being played in the lower octave so that it sounds cello-esque. So, kudos to Ehsan for that.
That's
He's
cool.
always, and even that
But
pum,
yeah,
pum,
people
pum,
sing
pum, pum,
together,
pum.
right?
Yeah.
Bol ek
So
awaaz
we,
hai hum. You get
so we
that.
get everyone to either they have their torches or everybody does one, and it's really nice. I mean, I got to sing it when Eve Ensler was in town, and she was doing it was for 1 Billion Rising, and we were in Miranda House, which is a women's college, and it was just it was goosebumpy to just be on stage to be singing for them because we were talking about speaking out against violence, sexual abuse. So, yeah. This is a very, very special piece, and I think Faiz Sahab just, wrote these anthemic lines, which are going
Spot
to
on.
be, which are just going to be relevant and valid forever.
How many movies have you seen? You're like, hey, this song would work great in this. Or do you imagine these, montage of people who are protesting and then another, set of people who just don't get off their butts, and then in the end,
But they
that last
complain the
person
loudest.
says, okay, I'll join you guys.
Yeah. But the ones who don't get off their butts, me, they're the ones who complain the most, right? They'll have the greatest views on everything.
So, Sonam, keeping to the theme of
Very
our
nicely done.
program, we're calling it Music for Humanity. And considering what's happening not only all over the world, but is really in India, where people are suffering, people need, this. And as, Khalil Gibran so nicely said, music as healing. Music is the language of the spirit. It opens the secret of life, bringing peace and joy. And I'm sure today you are being requested from all over, even within India, to give this kind of healing through music. And you feel it, you've inspired, us, you're making us feel so much more connected, so much more peaceful. But how do you see your music, doing this?
Well, I mean, it's really generous of you to say that you think my music has the ability to do that. I've never really actually seen it like that. I can tell you, though, there have been concerts where I've had people say some really kind things, where they come and they say, I came with a lot of questions and I'm leaving with a lot of answers. So things like that really impact me. Or the fact that during COVID, I found that Abide With Me was being shared a lot. In fact, it was coming back to me on a lot of WhatsApp shares. But I think all music, Manjula ji, is healing, and I find, as I think Manmeet very early said, it is the most essential thing to help us through these hours of darkness. I feel like so many musicians, and even last year, it was the musicians. Despite the fact that the arts community has been struggling so much, people have been out of work, musicians are out of work. I mean, after all, their lives are led by events, and if you're locking everyone in, which you have to, how are they supposed to make their money, and a musician's heart is also sustained. It's their music is sustained by audiences, by being able to, because what is a musician doing when they're performing? They're really just sharing all the love in their heart, and you're kind of stopping these channels. So it was a really hard time last year, and it's been really hard this year. But I found that the great thing about artists, and not just, I won't say my music, but all musicians, is they've always come together, whether it's COVID now, or in the past. Every time there is a calamity, every time there is crisis in the world, it is the artist community that comes together to raise funds. And in fact, last year, the artist community even raised funds for artists, which was rather interesting. But, people have been across the world putting together these concerts. They're still happening, where people are raising funds and through people's music. So I think music is the only thing really that can heal people and bring it together. Personally, through my music, like you said, I try and make it about a message, or I try and use it I develop my music to work, to say what I want to feel. And if it's okay with you, may I talk about my Partition performance, just to say what so really
Please
when
do.
I quite a few years ago, when they opened the gates of the Wagah border, and there was a cricket match happening in Mohali. There was a photograph of a man that one of the newspapers captured, of a man walking across from the Pakistani side, and he had his daughter on his shoulders, or a young child, who was holding a placard that said, "Lali akhiyan di pai dasdi hai, Lali akhiyan di pai dasdi hai, Akhiyan di lali dasdi hai,
Yeah.
roe asivi, roe tusivi." And I remember reading those words and just weeping, and I was so moved by them. And then they stayed with me for so long that every time I had the opportunity, I would share. Every time someone talked of animosity towards Pakistan, or this anti-Muslim sentiment or anti-Pakistani sentiment, I used to share these things, saying, look at this. This is the truth of what happened. There was hurt on both sides. You can't say I bled more or I wept more. How can you even say that? You literally took a family and you cut it apart. So for me, those words stayed with me. And then when I went to Pakistan, the 2 times, 3 times, 4 times that I've been, each time something else impacted me. So when I came back, I knew that I had to, and this happened over a period of 10 years. So it's not like I heard these words, but the minute I heard these words, I knew that they were going to form some part of a performance piece for me, because they were so evocative for me. So then I created an immersive piece, and I call it an immersive piece. Actually, we call it an experiential performance, because it starts from the minute you enter the theater. And in different places, we do the outer spaces differently. In some places, you'll have photographs strewn on the floor, and you have to walk over memory. In some places, they're dangling, so it brushes past your face. We have a sense of you. When you walk in, you are made to sit separately, because you don't realize you're partitioned. So you can walk in with Sheena and you won't be allowed to sit with her, because it wasn't out of choice that it happened. So from that very moment, you start to feel a sense of separation. And then I worked with an artist, I worked with an actor, and I created the whole piece in collaboration with them. It was led by me, but of course their inputs, I couldn't have done it without their inputs. I have an installation on stage, which we call the bleeding line, which actually divides the audience into 2. It's a series of trunks of showing displacement. Not many people realize it is still, till date, the largest mass displacement in the history of humanity. I found poetry of poets of that time, and I composed that with my musicians. So we're all on stage. It's literally like a triangular format. There's me, if you're looking at the stage, there's me on the right with my musicians, Salima Ji, the actor, on the left. Salima Ji is fantastic. She's the niece of Zora Segal, but she's in her 80s herself. So she represents the time, the people who had to come away with their memories. And we have a screen in the back, which actually tells you survivor testimonials, or it takes you through just people who lived through partition. And so we pass the baton between all of these, it goes triangularly. And we talk of what happened. We talk of the sadness of what happened to women, what happened to people, how their homes were torn apart. Then we go into stories of when people helped each other, because I wanted to leave the message. For me, it was just like Akhiyan Dilali dasdi hai. So I said, everything, that I'm not going to negate the fact that people really helped each other find families. And then we finally I also collected close to 200 video messages of people of peace, which said, everybody had to record a message on their phone saying "Jad asi milange" or "when we meet." And that was what you had to record. And so then we chose 5 or 7 pieces, which we show as part of the show. And eventually it ends with us saying that, let's keep the dialogue open. Let's keep the hope open for a friendship, because there at the end of the day, we are friends. I mean, with a friend of mine, we wrote something which in Punjabi, it was the first time I actually managed to write myself in Punjabi, because I think, again, you're so scared of things and you have to get over these fears. So we wrote, Asi teri khair puchde ravange,
Hi.
Asi tenu yaad karde ravange.
Wow, wow, wow.
ਵੰਡ ਗਿਆ ਮੁਲਕ ਸਾਡਾ ਦਿੱਲੀ ਤੇ ਲਾਹੌਰ ਹੋ ਕੇ, ਟੁੱਟ
Hi,
ਗਈ ਯਾਰੀਆਂ ਅੱਖੀਆਂ ਭਿਗੋ ਕੇ,
hi, hi.
ਨਾਉ ਚਨਾਬ ਦੀ ਸੁਪਨੇ ਚੌਂਦੀ ਹੈ, ਆਜਾ ਕੋਲ ਲਾਡੋ ਲੋਰੀ ਸੁਣਾਉਂਦੀ ਹੈ. And it just goes on to say, I'll play you just a little bit. I won't play you the rest of the verses because it's a really long song. But so we, the whole thing. And at the end of the show, Manjula ji, I also leave.
It.
I would love to bring it. Actually, it's been one of my dreams to bring it to the diaspora in the UK and the US, because they would understand it. We've been able to show it in India a lot. We've shown a little bit of it in Dubai and in Muscat, but to bring it there. And also, we collect, I have in my possession almost 800 postcards of peace that I get every single audience member. So when you come to see the show, you have a postcard on your chair with a pen, so that you cannot leave without filling that postcard. It's pre-addressed to the other side. And we make everyone perform the act of actually posting it. So we have an actual red letter box that I had fabricated, so that you have a sense of reaching out to the other side. And I have this incredible these postcards, and I keep thinking that one day I'm going to build a wall of peace, and a place, a bank where people can go and just find positivity, because people to people, we are the same. Our music is the same. That in itself is the greatest. Our culture, our language, our poetry, our food. I mean, to my mind, politics at this point be damned. I don't think we should have been partitioned, but that's how I feel. That's how I feel as a person, because I feel we are the same. And the love that Indians and Pakistanis share across the borders, that's testament enough as far as I'm concerned. But again, I have a very naive, John Lennon-esque imagined type of worldview. So what would I know? But I'm going to sing you just a little bit of Asi Teri Khair.
But dreams are important. Hopes are important. That's what keeps the world going, keeps us alive. Uday Janab, you've been too quiet. I want to hear from you. Boliye.
We'll wait for Sonam ji to sing. Sonam ji, please.
He just wants you to sing.
So sweet. One second.
Manmeet, Sheena, did you have anything? We have still so much to cover. We were going to finish at 1:30, but we have a lot. We want to hear more from you.
I've told you, I'm here. आपके साथ तो मेरी शाम इतनी अच्छी चल रही है, and I was going to say that this is the first time in 2 years I think I've won a sari, Manjula ji, only in your honor. I just want to say, so I've won a sari.
I mean, we're still waiting. So here's Sonam, she's, as I said, recovering from COVID. She just finished talking with Rajmohan Gandhi in Illinois, and here she is in her complete composure and giving us even more time. So thank you, Sonam. I love your spirit, love your energy, your passion, and everything that you bring not only to the music world, but really to the human world, about human relationships, about positivity. Right now there's just so much sadness all over. And just to see that little light somewhere, just for someone to show that, come along with me, abide with me, or hum dekhenge, everything, all of that is so needed. That is what's needed right now.
Thank you so much, Manjula ji. And I think that that's one of the things, exactly what you said. I think last year we saw it. We saw how the world also came together, whether it was, during isolation in Italy, when people would get onto their balconies and sing for each other, or across the world. I mean, how music kept everyone together. But this year we saw specifically how the world rallied together to help India, and how Indians from outside rallied together to help their homeland, and it within India also. I mean, that's like a whole other story. The way that the community, when we say bol ke lab azad hai, I'm just going back to that, bolo ek awaaz hai hum, it's just been absolutely phenomenal to see how everyone has rallied together, strangers helping each other get hospital beds. There would be one message that would shoot out saying mother in need of a hospital with her child, and all of us would react to it. And I say all of us, meaning even people I don't know, everyone was reacting to it like it was their own family member. And that's how incredible, when people say it's been a really tough year, it has, but one of the greatest, despite all the darkness, as Rumi says, the wound is the place the light enters you. And so the light that has entered all of us, the light of humanity, the light of kindness, I think that has been the greatest gift we could have possibly asked for. I mean, this is the only, if there's one quality we all must possess and be constantly reminded that we need to possess, it's kindness. And this one has been absolutely that. This COVID time has shown everyone how important it is to be kind, and people have been incredible. And people have literally done this. Asi teri khair puchde ravange. They've asked after each other. And I believe that, that even if we have been separated from what was undivided in Punjab got divided, I believe that the roots are so strong that's why there's so much intrigue. People still want to know, and so much interest, because genetically you have DNA memory, and genetically you want to know what happened. So just 2 lines of this for Uday, since he's keeping so quiet and I have been told by him I have to sing. So I'm just going to do this one for Uday.
Please, please.
ਅਸੀਂ ਤੇਰੀ ਖੈਰ ਪੁੱਛਦੇ ਰਵਾਂਗੇ, ਅਸੀਂ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਯਾਦ ਕਰਦੇ ਰਵਾਂਗੇ। ਅਸੀਂ ਤੇਰੀ ਖੈਰ ਪੁੱਛਦੇ ਰਵਾਂਗੇ, ਅਸੀਂ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਖਤ ਲਿਖਦੇ ਰਵਾਂਗੇ। ਅਸੀਂ ਤੇਰੀ ਖੈਰ ਪੁੱਛਦੇ ਰਵਾਂਗੇ, ਅਸੀਂ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਯਾਦ ਕਰਦੇ ਰਵਾਂਗੇ। ਅਸੀਂ ਤੇਰੀ ਖੈਰ ਪੁੱਛਦੇ ਰਵਾਂਗੇ, ਅਸੀਂ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਖਤ ਲਿਖਦੇ ਰਵਾਂਗੇ। ਵੰਡ ਗਿਆ ਮੁਲਕ ਸਾਡਾ ਦਿੱਲੀ ਤੇ ਲਾਹੌਰ ਹੋ ਕੇ, ਵੰਡ ਗਿਆ ਮੁਲਕ ਸਾਡਾ ਦਿੱਲੀ ਤੇ ਲਾਹੌਰ ਹੋ ਕੇ, ਟੁੱਟ ਗਈ ਯਾਰੀਆਂ ਅੱਖੀਆਂ ਭਿਗੋ ਕੇ, ਮਿਟ ਗਈ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਅੱਖੀਆਂ ਭਿਗੋ ਕੇ। ਨਾਫ ਜਨਾਬ ਦੀ ਸੁਪਨੇ ਚ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਏ, ਨਾਫ ਜਨਾਬ ਦੀ ਸੁਪਨੇ ਚ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਏ। ਆ ਜਾ ਕੋਲ ਲਾਡੋ ਲੋਰੀ ਸੁਣਦੀ ਏ, ਆ ਜਾ ਕੋਲ ਲਾਡੋ ਲੋਰੀ ਸੁਣਦੀ ਏ, ਲੋਰੀ ਸੁਣਦੀ ਏ। ਅਸੀਂ ਤੇਰੀ ਖੈਰ ਪੁੱਛਦੇ ਰਵਾਂਗੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਯਾਦ ਕਰਦੇ ਰਵਾਂਗੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਤੇਰੀ ਖੈਰ ਪੁੱਛਦੇ ਰਵਾਂਗੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਖਤ ਲਿਖਦੇ ਰਵਾਂਗੇ
Deeply, deeply moving, Sanam. We all have tears. I have some of our Pakistani friends who are watching, listening, and I am sure are equally moved as we all are. And this is what I call the expression. Any of our Uday, Sheena, Manmeet?
I know I'm going to be taking this a little away from the message of peace and everything that you have tried to send through your singing and your messaging. And as we've all heard you, Sonam, I see that you bring a lot of different faiths and religions, like in unison in your singing. And I'm sure it's not been easy getting this message out, seeing what the environment in India, especially being in Delhi. So have you faced any obstacles or any challenges trying to get the message across?
So I don't think I've faced any real, I don't think I faced any real obstacles. Sorry, just one second. I don't think I've faced any obstacles, or as I would call them, or challenges. I think there are times that people, because you're not a traditionalist, perhaps don't understand your music, so you don't really fit into a slot. So sometimes maybe when someone is programming you, they don't know how to slot you in the program. But that being said, I think because it's unique also, you do tend to get programmed at lots of interesting festivals and places where you wouldn't normally be because they think that you have something different to say. Other than that, what I have faced, of course, there is some trolling. I mean, when I was telling, I think you guys last time that I had been asked to do a recording of Ekumkar, and I did do that. And it was put out there, and because I'd also sung Hum Dekhenge a year before that, I got badly trolled saying, this Sikh girl, she doesn't speak out, she speaks out for every religion, and what does she think of herself? And I was told all kinds of things. But haters will be haters, and the fact that you're being trolled, I think, means that you're really getting under their skin a little bit, which is a good thing if you're getting under their skin. And you just have to realize that you can't let it get under your skin, which I'll promise you is hard, because at the end of the day, we are musicians, we're human. It does hurt, but I think you have to realize it should only hurt if it's coming from someone with some validity to them, and just being someone who's a andhbhakt is not valid in my book. So it hasn't really been that hard otherwise. Also because, as Manmeet said, I'm creating my own genre, so I'll end up making a lot of the rules for myself. And I think that's just who I am in any case, right? I feel like if I have something to say, it has to be said in the only way I know. So yeah, I'm maybe a little thick-skinned about that. Probably a good thing.
Stopped you, and I hope it doesn't, and I hope you keep moving forward with the messaging that you're trying to send.
I hope so too. Thank you so much for wishing that for me.
It's a beautiful medium that you.
No, and thank you for wishing that for me. It means a lot. It means a lot to have supporters like you, to have people and audiences and friends like you. And I never call them audiences, because we actually end up becoming friends because we've shared something together. We've shared the music. We've shared what we go through together at a concert. I really feel like at the end of a concert, we are bonded in a way, because I poured my heart out to you. I opened my heart out, and you opened your heart to receive. So it really does feel like a closeness. And that's something, of course, even it's very nice to do in virtual concerts, but you really miss it. You really miss it. You want to be with people.
Sonam, today is one afternoon that I'm not apologizing. We've been saying, oh, we missed the concerts, stage performances. But I hope all our viewers realize what an intimate conversation, that you're in people's homes, you're talking to each one of us, you're literally bearing your heart out, sharing your stories, your philosophy. So this I mean, I really feel you're sitting here with me and we're conversing, and which is a very, very special, a very unique opportunity to get to know you, your music. But of course, you have to promise you're coming to us next year.
As soon as they say that the vaccine that I've taken is valid, because apparently I've taken Covaxin, and so far WHO is not recognizing it. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed. As soon as Covaxin is recognized, Manjulaji, I'm on the next flight. I'm parking myself in your living room. Manmeet, you've got to come. Varun, you've got to come. Uday, Sheena, everyone. I'm just taking it in advance. If I get there, you have to be there. So
Manmeet is going to join you on the Sarangi.
100%. I can't wait.
So we have all
In fact,
these, and there
I
are
wish
all these musicians here waiting for you.
I
But
wish Manmeet could have played something for us today. I would have loved that, Manmeet.
yes, we will. So moving on, and we have touched upon it a little bit. You know, Joy Harjo is our poet laureate, the first Native American woman to hold this position. And she says, my work is my activism. So I see it, but I want to know from you, especially on Hum Dekhenge, which you're going to sing for us. How far, again, can music and your music stir and influence people towards a more active role, whether it's social, political change? And before you go into Hum Dekhenge, we just want to add that you sang it at the Fairs Festival in Pakistan, in Lahore.
No, I sang Bol there. I didn't sing Hum Dekhenge then. I decided to sing Hum Dekhenge much later
Oh.
when the CA protests had happened in India. That's when it kept playing in my head. And I was in Oman, and it kept playing in my head, and I felt it was the right time for me to sing it. But I wanted to sing it differently. I wanted to sing it. And I know, we talk of activism, and one of the misconceptions that people have about activism is that you've got to be shouting at the top of your voice to be heard. And I don't think so. I think you can speak with a quiet dignity. I think you can speak with a certain strength and firmness, and you can still be heard as long as your feet are firmly planted on the ground when you say what you say and your beliefs are unshakable. So I wanted to do it in that quiet way. You've been very kind to let me do it in the way that I asked you to let me do it, Manjula ji. So thank you for that. But when I created it, I was hearing it over and over in my head, and I kept hearing resonances of Rabindranath Tagore's words, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free. And he goes on to say, into that heaven of freedom, my father, let my country awake. And I kept hearing these two things in parallel in my head. And so then I decided that I would create this piece with an actor, a friend. But I decided that there would hardly be any musical interludes, and the voice would be the musical interlude, because I didn't want anything else to sort of, it wasn't about the music in this case. It was about the message very specifically, and using music, of course, as a means. But I didn't want anything to take away from both the words of these great leaders, of these great thinkers. And so that's what I created with Hum Dekhenge and Where the Mind is Without Fear. But I do think, as you said, music has always had the ability. I mean, music has been one of our greatest forms of expression, whether it was an expression of joy, of sorrow, of birth, of death. It has always been the way we've expressed ourselves as civilization, and in different parts of the world. I mean, there's so many interesting things about music that we don't know. I just, in my head, it's popping up right now, but I remember going for a festival, and there was this bunch of drummers that played at night, and they were incredible, and they were this kind of, you were kind of in a trance listening to them, yet they kept you very awake. So it was that strange. And I remember asking somebody, I said, where do they come from? They were from Rajasthan, and they were specifically, I know this is completely a digression, but I'm just sharing this because music is so vast, and what an incredible wealth of music the world has. They were snake venom players. So really, when you got bitten by a snake in a village, they play to keep you awake all night so that the venom doesn't affect you. I mean, it's just incredible. I remember thinking that moment, I was like, so much I want to learn more about the kind of music that exists in the world. But music has always been used as a voice. It's been used for change. Bob Dylan, you name it. There have been so many great singers who have spoken out through their music, and it's really stirred emotions. So I think that music has the ability to stir your emotions without sounding like you're being preached at. Music has the ability to touch you from so deep within, to create a sort of cathartic, to also be a catharsis, but also just stir your emotions from really your core, and then make you respond in a way that a lecture wouldn't, or just words wouldn't. So and I think as musicians, it is our responsibility, absolutely, as our responsibility, to be the voice of, the condition, of the human condition, to be the voice of this situation in the world. And if we don't do it, then who else will? And why have we been given the gift of music if we're not going to use it for the right reasons? Music isn't just about sitting on stage and getting wah wah and tarif, because then it becomes about you. And as I said, the music is greater than any of us.
Perfectly said. So you're going to take us into Hum Dekhenge?
I actually wanted to sing Alfat for you, Baba Bulle Shah, as well. But would you like me to end with Hum Dekhenge or end with Alfat? Alfat is nice and up tempo, so we could end with that.
So let's do Alfat first, and then we'll end with Hum Dekhenge.
I know Manjula ji wants to.
I'm greedy. I'm going to ask you to give more and more and more.
No. So I will do Alfat. So just to tell you about Alfat, Baba Bulle Shah, as you all know, incredible poet. And I wish, one of my greatest desires was, if someone was to ask me what would be that, that question you get asked often, that if you had a dining table and you could choose all the people you'd want to be on that table, I definitely want Baba Bulle Shah to be one of the guests on that table. So Manjula ji, when I come, if you can arrange that, that would be great.
Me too, on the table.
Yeah. And everything he wrote of, absolutely, everything he wrote of then, so many centuries ago, is still so relevant now. Every single thought. In fact, probably even more pertinent now in the current socio-political climate of the world. He writes in one of his pieces, and I know that was a piece you wanted me to sing, but I'm going to do the other one. But this one also, he says, chal buliya, chal othe chaliye jithe sare anne. Chal buliya, chal othe chaliye jithe sare anne. Na koi saadi zaat pachane, te na koi sanu manne. Now, how beautiful is that thought? He says, take me, my friend, to live in that utopia. I want to live in a perfect world where everyone is blind. Because if they are blind, they will not be able to discriminate amongst us on the basis of caste, color, gender, creed, or religion. He says, take me there, take me to such a land, because that is the sort of place I want to live in. And so all of his thoughts, for him, Sufism, a love of God implied a love of all humanity. He saw everyone as equal. All of his poetry talks of that. In this particular piece that I'm going to sing for you, this is something we composed. Baba Bulle Shah says, "Mere guru ne mujhe ek aisa nukta padhaya hai." My teacher has taught me a wonderful lesson. मेरे गुरु ने मुझे एक ऐसा नुक्ता पढ़ाया है, एक बहुत कीमती नुक्ता पढ़ाया है कि मेरा काबा, मेरा किबला, मेरा मस्जिद, मेरा मंदिर किसी चार दीवारी में नहीं है. So he says, my temple, my shrine, my church, my mosque is not within the four walls of a building, but within the walls of my heart, and within the walls of the heart of the person. Perfect. Right next to me. And he says, now that I have this knowledge, I'm free. I'm free from the shackles of ritual and religion. And he said, because I'm free and I know that God is within me, and in every person I come across, in every being I see and I encounter, I will wear my ankle bells and I will dance. And so when we composed this, Manjula ji, we decided to, it has, to me, when Bulle Shah said, I will wear my ankle bells and dance, the traditional composition was in a minor scale and it felt quite heavy to me. And so I thought, why doesn't it sound more joyous? Because, he's got this great revelation that's happened. So it should sound like a celebration. It should sound like you want to get up and dance. So we decided to, we put it in a major scale. Then I thought that that's not enough. So I bullied my lovely musicians into saying, "Aap sarangi fiddle ke jaise kyun nahi, Irish fiddle ke jaise kyun nahi bajate?" And he just looked at me and said, "Oh God, not again. She strikes again." And he said, "Okay," because he's always up for a great challenge. And then the bansuri is played in a really fun, sort of almost an Irish tune. The tabla doesn't sound like a traditional tabla. It does in parts, but there are also bits where he kind of, jams and experiments. We got in a banjo. We got in all these other instruments. And we created this. And of course, we also use technology, because there's a refrain in Alfat which says, Dharmanastuhu Allah. And that I wrote with a friend in an Iranian friend over WhatsApp. So we used everything we knew, every little thing that we'd learned in the last few years, and we put it all together and we created this piece because we thought, what better way to show that the world is one large family than not than to ask for like everyone's help and bring in all the influences of the whole world. And so this is Alfat in bin un bin an bin nukta yar padhaya re. If any of your listeners can actually pronounce this, then they're going to get a special prize from me. Alfat in bin un bin an bin nukta yar padhaya re. Uday, can you do that? Just checking. Come on, Uday.
That's why the way you've used the instrumentation, it really appeals to the youngsters, this piece.
Yeah, I think so. This does. You're right.
It from different levels and different
Yeah,
angles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to play this.
अल्फतेन बिनोन बिनैन बिन नुक्ता याद पढ़ाया 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 नुक्ता याद पढ़ाया सानू राजो शब्द सिखाया नुक्ता याद पढ़ाया सानू राजो शब्द सिखाया अल्फतेन बिनोन बिनैन बिन नुक्ता याद पढ़ाया अल्फतेन बिनोन बिनैन बिन नुक्ता याद पढ़ाया नुक्ता याद पढ़ाया सानू राजो शब्द सिखाया नुक्ता याद पढ़ाया सानू राजो शब्द सिखाया अल्फतेन बिनोन बिनैन बिन नुक्ता याद पढ़ाया अल्फतेन बिनोन बिनैन बिन नुक्ता याद पढ़ाया अल्फतेन बिनोन बिनैन बिन नुक्ता याद पढ़ाया अल्फतेन बिनोन बिनैन बिन नुक्ता याद पढ़ाया
Beautiful, beautiful.
درمنسته الله درمن कर्मणस्तु अल्लाह 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 आंखें बुले शाहर बन तारे आंखें बुले शाहर बन तारे बिस्ती नाम धराया आंखें बुले शाहर बन तारे बिस्ती नाम धराया बंद कर चेहरा चम 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 बंद कर चेहरा चम 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 सानू रुठड़ा यार मनाया अल्फतेन बिनून बिनन बिन नुक्ता यार पढ़ाया अल्फतेन बिनून बिनन बिन नुक्ता यार पढ़ाया नुक्ता यार पढ़ाया सानू राजू शब्द सिखाया नुक्ता यार पढ़ाया सानू राजू शब्द सिखाया अल्फतेन बिनून बिनन बिन नुक्ता यार पढ़ाया अल्फतेन बिनून बिनन बिन नुक्ता यार पढ़ाया दिन तनना देरे दानी दिन तनना देरे ना दिन तनना देरे दानी तनना देरे दानी तनना देरे ना सनी सा सा सनी सा सा पनी सा रे रे सनी गा गा सनी सा 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 सनी सा 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 पनी सा रे रे सनी गा गा करे गा गा करे गा गा सरे गा मा मा गा रे करे गा 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 करे गा गा सरे गा मा मा गा रे सनी सा सा सनी सा सा पनी सा रे रे सरे गा गा सनी सा सा सनी सा सा पनी सा रे रे सरे गा गा करे गा मा गा रे रे सनी धनी सा करे गा मा गा रे रे सनी धनी सा गा मा रे सनी रे सनी धनी सा गा मा रे सनी रे सनी धनी सा सनी धनी दा प दा प म रे सनी सा सनी धनी दा प दा प म रे सनी सा सनी धनी दा प दा प म रे सनी रे सा
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
That was really great. That was a lot of
Thank
fun.
you.
Inspiring. I enjoyed
you
it so much, Sonam, but the clock is ticking away.
Yeah, so we have to quickly do.
And I just want to say one quick thing because I'm bombarded with text messages, Sonam, from our GPA family. Our Pakistani friends, they are I just got a text message from Humi. She's like, we Pakistanis are going to open our hearts and arms to welcome to the US. So the love is mutual.
Thank you for saying that. That really makes me want to cry. Thank you so much.
She's
Thank
waiting
you. Really,
for
I'm
you.
very, very.
Yeah, we are all waiting for you.
Dancing to this last piece. I wanted to dance with her. But do you have any
does
more?
does everybody know that Manjula ji is an amazing dancer? Does secretly everyone know that?
Yeah.
I think I've heard that you are a really good dancer. I'm trying to remember who told me Manjula ji.
Was.
Hena?
On a time and aspiring, whatever. We won't talk about any other comments, Sheena, that we might want to share, or you can pick up while Sonam prepares. And we've been waiting to hear Hum Dekhenge, which is my all-time favorite. And not only all the connotations that the piece has, but your rendition of it and mixing it with the Tagore.
And I think for me, what was really special was that, when we talk of trusting people and we talk of, I think Sheena asked, about audiences. And when I did the piece, it was what I wanted to say. And then suddenly 3 days later, I get a message from a friend saying, do you know, it's gone viral. And I thought, to me, something going viral it's not something that is not an ultimate goal ever to any kind of piece of music that I create. But when this went viral, it meant something else to me. It meant that many people agreed with me, agreed with the hope of that India, agreed with the hope of a world of peace. And that really, really warmed my heart because I've grown up knowing India to be secular. To me, the Constitution means the world. So for all of us, right? So when it resonated like that for so many people, with so many people, it really, these are moments that you are overwhelmed and you feel like यही चीज के लिए हम जो भी करते हैं हम इसी चीज के लिए करते हैं, at least for me, so yeah, हम देखेंगे. Sheena, were you going to share another message or shall I start?
The message, there are like a couple more. They're all about the same thing. I think we've really gotten the message across. And it's
Thank
well
you.
received. It's well received.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I think Varun has said he's on a ferry, right? So there's no network, but he's messaging every now and then. So we're missing Varun. But I hope he can hear Hum Dekhenge wherever he is.
You have a convert in Varun. We had to work very hard on him.
That's good to know. That's really good to know. So Hum Dekhenge.
हम देखेंगे हम देखेंगे लाजिम है कि हम भी देखेंगे हम देखेंगे लाजिम है कि हम भी देखेंगे हम देखेंगे वो दिन के जिसका वादा है वो दिन के जिसका वादा है जो लोहे अज़ल में लिखा है हम देखेंगे लाजिम है कि हम भी देखेंगे हम देखेंगे
Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls.
जब जुल्मों सितम के कोहे गरा
Where words come out from the depth of truth.
जब जुल्मों सितम के कोहे गरा रूई की तरह उड़ जाएंगे
Where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection.
रूई की तरह उड़ जाएंगे हम महकूमों के पांव तले हम महकूमों के पांव तले ये धरती धड़ धड़ धड़केगी
Where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit.
ये धरती धड़ धड़ धड़केगी और अहले हकम के सरू पर जब बिजली कड़कड़ कड़केगी हम देखेंगे
Where the mind is led forward by thee into ever widening thought and action.
लाजिम है कि हम भी देखेंगे हम देखेंगे
Into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake.
हम देखेंगे हम देखेंगे
वाह
वाह बहुत खूब
सोनम क्या कमाल कमाल करती हो वाकई
Thank you.
उदय बोलिए
Manjula.
It was amazing, Sonamji. That was we are all speechless here.
No, thank you so much. Thank you, Manjula ji, for
They're getting
giving me this.
all these sung beautifully, amazing. Kya baat hai? Very beautifully sung. when you go, my friend Mansoora Hassan is saying, Roo ki tarha, Rui ki tarha ud jayenge.
Ud jayenge.
And they've all just loved it. And I'm so sad to see this end, but only to lead on to your coming to us next year.
Absolutely. And many more discussions with all of us, sharing ideas and talking on.
You gave us so much, but so much more. You've kind of stirred conversation. Varun and I were all talking yesterday about the ethics and the economics and just so much more about musicians' condition in India, all over. But Sonam is going to take care of all of that. We're just going to go down for any last minute comments. Uday, Sheena, Manmeet.
I don't know. Have you seen Bandish Bandits?
You're going to laugh. I haven't. When I was sick with COVID, I just really didn't have the energy to see much. And since I've been better, I jumped straight back into music. So I have to see it, but I have to have the headspace to see it. So Aram Nal, as they say.
No, in the end, he sings this really profound marva, and nobody claps. It's like absolute silence. So I think your last piece kind of was like that. It's profound. It's so reflective. The tempo is so serious. It really, I've heard lots of versions of it, but this really forces you to look at the verses so much more closer in an intimate way. So I think you did a absolutely great job with all the nuances that you fit in there. So beautifully done.
Thank you so much, Manmeet. That means a lot. And it's so beautifully articulated by you, the way you've, in your praise. So thank you so much. Thank you for hearing it.
Sheena, and Uday, some last closing.
I think she's left me speechless with that last number. It was beautiful. And thank you so much. And thank you, Manjula, for your visionary leadership for GPA. And it's been my pleasure being part of this organization. So thank you for putting this program.
Thank you, Sonam.
It's almost like saying dreams do come true sometimes, and this was quite a dream. And
we've been talking about this for so long, Manjula ji, about doing this conversation.
And I never thought, I don't know how amazingly you brought in the music as well. So we really are thinking we've been to a concert. So it's not just. And Uday, we could not have done any of this without you. And I cannot thank you enough. And he sat there silently enjoying and yet being part of it. And he's been with us for all our online programs. As I said, we've done 8 or 9.
So many, yeah.
Continue. I thank all our viewers. I'd like to also thank Anju and Jawahar Chowdhury for their donation towards this program and who are generous friends of the arts and continue. And I appeal to the rest of the viewers, help us to continue with this. Help us to bring Sonam over next year.
Thank you. I'm gonna second that as well. We'd love to come and actually get a chance to play with Manmeet and to meet all of you in person. And of course, here's to safer, happier, healthier, better times for the entire world. I hope we all come out of this together, stronger, healthier, of course, but wiser and kinder.
In peace, love, and harmony. And
peace,
with that,
love, and in humanity, as you said, Saaz-e-Hayat. Yeah, I was thinking of Saaz-e Humanity. That's where my head is at with the blending. I'm still blending everything.
Rule the world. Thank you all so much. Thanks to all.
Manjula. Thanks, Sonam.
Thank you, Manjula ji, for just really being such a great supporter of the arts. Thank you. Good night to everyone. Well, good night from me, but good morning, good evening, whatever it is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay well. Stay well.
Bye.